Very good, Jethro. We will continue your homework with great leaders in history. You may begin.
A is for Alexander, the great he was named. B is for Beethoven, for music so famed. C is for cigarette, and Winston's the best. D is for Drake, Sir Francis...
Wait. Cigarettes, Winston. Jethro, we are studying great leaders.
Well, Mr. Drysdale told Uncle Jed that Winston is the leading filter cigarette all over.
That's right, he did. Me and Granny's been smoking them, and they is first rate. Here, try one.
Mr. Clampett, I've no doubt that Winston is indeed a superior filter cigarette. However, in deference to the textbook... Why, this is superior. However, in deference to the textbook... Never mind the textbook. C is for cigarette, and Winston's the best.
Yes, ma'am. Winston tastes good.
Like a cigarette should.
The scene, Beverly Hills. The people, one of America's favorite families, the Beverly Hillbillies. You'll split your stays a-laughin' as Granny puts the hill folk, Beverly Hills that is, and Jed in a spin. Follow Jethro's fancy footwork if you can, as he causes a ruckus wherever he goes, whether it's on his private football field in the Clampett mansion or on board a ship, sweeping the crew off its feet. And there's Ellie Mae in the danged old seaman pond, the purtiest critter-loving critter of 'em all. You'll love the Beverly Hillbillies, with the world's dad-burndest, side-splittingest, conniving tiger of a granny who wants to let you know that the show is...
in color from coast to coast with millions of people watching.
Every Wednesday night on the CBS television network.
Sitcom, all ye faithful, a Christmas podcast special, where for the third time I discuss 25 Christmas sitcom episodes. Please come and listen every day up through Christmas. I'm sure we'll feature Jeannie, the Tanners, and Nell Harper, Chandler, Big Mr. Roper. It will be dynamite. We'll definitely feature a character who says dynamite.
Come and listen to a story about a man named Jed. A poor mountaineer barely kept his family fed. And then one day he was shooting at some food, and up through the ground come a bubbling crude. Oil, that is, black gold, Texas tea. Well, the first thing you know, old Jed's a millionaire. The kinfolk said, Jed, move away from there. Said, California is the place you ought to be. So they loaded up the truck and they moved to Beverly Hills, that is, swimming pools, movie stars.
The Beverly Hillbillies.
Oh, happy day. It's Wednesday and I'm here talking about Christmas sitcoms, and I wrote this song for you. Okay, I kind of making it up. In fact, I didn't write it at all. I just hit record and started singing. I didn't even plan to do this, so I'm not quite sure what will happen now. When do I stop and just start talking? Will anything actually rhyme like a song? If it does, it's by accident. Right or wrong, there I finally rhymed something as I pace in my bathroom, because my dog is getting excited and wants to play with me. Okay, she really wants to just sit there and whine and then go out and then want a treat, and that's why I'm in the bathroom. Ba 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 ba, on with the show. Happy Wednesday, everybody, and welcome back to Sitcom, all ye faithful, where today I'm going way, way, way back into the 1960s, technically the last decade that I was not alive in. So really boring when you think about it. I mean, I wasn't in the decade. I don't know what the 60s is famous for, but it ain't famous for me. So I don't know what else went on in that decade. There's not really much like recorded history from the 1960s, but there was television, and that did bring us the Beverly Hillbillies. That's the subject of today's podcast. Beverly Hillbillies. Here's a show that it is a historic show. Like, it's an all-time iconic sitcom. I mean, for any show at that time, it ran. I actually took some notes, if you can believe it or not. They're written down on my phone. 9 seasons, 274 episodes. So it was a juggernaut of a show. And I thought, well, let's look up what the best Christmas episodes are. And there were a few different ones that they suggested, but I wanted to go way back to the beginning. And I went all the way back to season 1 from 1962. It was called Home for Christmas. And I have to tell you, it was pretty great. Like, it's like, you could tell me, you could say, hey, what do you know about the Beverly Hillbillies? And I'll say, oh, Jed Clampett and Granny and Jethro and Ellie Mae, and they're bubbling crude and oil, and they go off. But I am almost positive I've never seen an episode, like a full episode. I'm sure it was on here or there. Like, I have memories of it kind of being in syndication on reruns, or maybe at my grandparents' house, but I never sat down and watched a full episode of this show. Now, it is available for free on Pluto for the first 2 seasons. So this episode that I watched today is available on Pluto to watch. And I put a link to it in the show notes. But the whole series is on Prime. That's where I actually watched it, because to skip the commercials, I watched the whole thing on Prime. And so if you want to go and watch it, if you have Prime, if you're one of the few people who subscribes to this thing called Prime, Amazon Prime, then you can watch it there completely commercial free. But I would say the most famous thing, but one thing about this show, it's another show that has a famous theme song, a theme song that will tell you what the show is about. In 5 seconds, you get an idea. You don't have to watch any episode to at least, Jed was out hunting. He shot at something. He struck oil, and now they're rich. I don't know how rich they are completely, but I learned in this episode they have $25 million in this bank. Now, in 2023, $25 million is like, big whoop. I mean, who doesn't have $25 million to spare? But in the 60s, $25 million, well, I mean, okay, in reality, anyone having $25 million is ridiculous. In the 60s, it must have been like being a billionaire. Like, I don't know, they had a beautiful house already. But what I've noticed is they're still very dumb, and I loved it. I love their like naivete of them. But I learned in this episode that they had at least $25 million that they have in Mr. Drysdale's. Is it Mr. Drysdale's bank? Yes. And that's the thing. I'm like, oh, I've heard the name Mr. Drysdale and Miss Hathaway. Maybe because I hear Howard Stern talk about him sometimes. But the show kicks off right away. I'm like bouncing to the theme song. But what I also noticed in the theme, they go, and the Beverly Hillbillies today, and they drive by a billboard, and it says, brought to you by Kellogg's. Kellogg's. So they had a sponsor in the opening, part of the opening song right away, and I wonder if they did that for every opening, a different, or whoever was the sponsor. Maybe it was Kellogg's a lot. It's nice that they had something, somewhat, wholesome, and I guess you could say wholesome and family friendly as breakfast cereal, because as you heard at the beginning of this episode, the Clampetts themselves loved to hawk cigarettes. It wasn't Marlboro. Was it Winston? Winston cigarettes? Delicious. There are like a bunch of cigarette commercials from from the Clampetts. Now, and even Miss Hathaway was like, "Ooh, this is a delicious cigarette." Like, and I'm thinking, wow, it just like, and then I think of Mad Men, and it's like, you know, they just wanted to get you to smoke and hook you and teach you, and, you know, teach you how delicious this filtered cigarette is. Like, it's just, it's hilarious. I mean, if you see Fred Flintstone and Barney Rubble selling cigarettes, I mean, is it really that crazy to see Jed Clampett selling cigarettes? Anyway, the episode opens up with them packing to go to. They're going home for Christmas. They want to drive home, so they're packing the car up, and Jethro has this big pile of wood, and Jed's like, "Hey, what are you doing with all that wood?" He's like, "Granny wants it for the ride because she's going to be cold. She set up a whole stove on the back of the truck that she's going to feed the wood in because, you know, it's not cold here, but it's going to get cold on the way there." And it was hilarious. Now, while that's happening, Mr. Drysdale and Miss Hathaway are flying to driving as fast as they can to the house because they think that the Clampetts are leaving. And he's like, I don't want them to leave. He doesn't want them to leave and take their $25 million out of his bank because he likes having that money there. And he's like, "Oh, are you afraid because you don't like the fact that he has $25 million in a bank?" He goes, "No, I'm afraid he might take it out of my bank." So he gets there. He's like, "Where are you going?" Like, "We're going home for the holidays." And he's like, No. Let me make the arrangements for you. We can get you there. It's going to take you 6 days. I can get you there in 6 hours. Like, 6 hours? They must know a shortcut. Like, they didn't even grasp the idea of an airplane. They did, to the point where they've never seen an airplane or even know what exists in this episode. They get to the airport, and the stewardesses are all excited for them because they're like, "Did you hear? There's the entire first class was booked. And let's make sure we have plenty of caviar and champagne." And they're all impressed when they see Ellie Mae and Granny show up in mink coats because it seems like the Drysdales, Mr. Drysdale and Miss Hathaway, are really into helping them spend their money too. Now, I don't know if that's some sort of way they collect interest. I don't know how that works or why they want them to spend their money, but they seem to be the keepers of the vault. They're like, "Make sure they get you get Granny and Ellie Mae nice mink coats too." So they take, you know, the stewardesses see two women show up in mink coats. They're like, "Oh my goodness, this is amazing." They're like, "Oh God, how did those two get in here? We need to make sure. How did they get past the gate?" And Jethro and Jed show up, and they're like so naive. They're like, no, you're in the wrong place. You need to go back. He's like, "All right, come on, Granny, let's go." "Oh, wait, you're together?" It's like, yeah, we're together. "Oh, come on in. Let me take your coat." She's like, "I just got it." Granny thinks she's giving the woman her coat. Ellie Mae doesn't want to give the woman her coat. They're like, "No, we're just going to hang them up." "Oh, okay." At one point, Jed tries to give them a big pile of money. "Maybe you can go buy your own coat." And they're like, "You need to, you know, have us sit down and get ready to go." They're like, "Well, this is a crazy bus." They kept calling it a bus. And then they're like it was ridiculous, really. They're like, well, until you go back and see where they were living, maybe it wasn't that ridiculous. They're like, "Where's this guy going? How is he going to get here? He's got to know some crazy shortcuts." It's like, "All right, let's look out the window so we can try to remember his shortcuts." And they, you know, the plane starts going on the runway. He's like, "He better slow down, otherwise he's going to come off the road." Like, he is coming off the road. "Should I go say something to the bus driver?" And they start raising up like, you know what? And then the woman goes, "It wasn't takeoff wonderful?" Like, they had no idea what an airplane was. And they're like, "Why don't you get some rest?" They put the seat back. They're like, "Oh, this is really nice. Like, I could get used to this." Later on, they're sleeping on the plane. They wake up. And the woman's like, "Should they watch it? Should we put a movie on for them?" They're like, "Yeah, okay, let's put a movie on for them." Should we tell them? "No, let's just wait till they wake up." Now, this, I didn't know how movies were. I as a kid, I don't think we ever flew on a plane that had a movie. Now you have the little screens on the back of the back of everyone's seat. I feel like maybe I saw one screen, but then I'm wondering if that was just a bus when I was a kid, and I'm mixing up memories. But on this screen in first class, it looked like a movie screen. It was like an HD, 16:9, and they put on a Western movie. She's like, "They'll probably like that. That'll wake them up." Puts on the Western movie. Jed wakes up, thinks it's real. he's like, oh my God, we must have landed. And now we're chasing those guys. You better look out. You better go tell the bus driver to watch out. And then he grabs one of the stewardesses on his seat. He goes, get out. You're in the line of fire. Because in the movie, the cowboys are shooting back at them. And then Jethro's like, well, I want to be part of this. He grabs the other stewardess and basically, manhandles her. I'm sure that, it's not quite up to snuff in today's standards, but back then it was, I guess, seen as very innocently done. So while all this is going on, they're back at wherever the hell they lived. Because I don't know. It's not Hooterville, right? I was looking up Return to Hooterville, but Hooterville's from a different show. I don't think it's where they live in this show, but wherever they are, that's like, I think it's the mountains of Tennessee or something. It looks like they live in like Emmett Otter's, time, or like back in Bob Cratchit's time. You got this old woman who plays the cousin, and she is there with this other old guy who's the grandpa. It's like Paul Winchell, Grandpa Winch or something. And I also discovered that Miss Hathaway has the hots for Jethro. But it's Pearl Bodine. She's Jethro's mother, and she is hot for some local dude. So there's this guy over there. He's like, "Come on, Granny." It basically looked like he was doing a character that Adam Sandler would do, and he's trying to get this woman to cook for her and spend time with him, cook for him and spend time with him. But she's trying to go see this other guy. I think it's Mr. Reynolds is his name. She goes to his house, and she's like, I'm going to be leaving soon. She's going to surprise her family, her cousin and her son. She's going to surprise them in Beverly Hills while they're coming this way. So while she's waiting, she's like, let me go spend some time with this guy. I want to get him to propose to me because I need a husband. So she goes to his little cabin. I mean, this guy looks like he lives in a cabin that people who are camping might think it's a bad idea to live there. She's like, let me fix this place up for you. He's like, well, I'm going to be leaving soon. I have to go. So before you go, let me take care of you. So she cooks for him. She decorates for him. She cleans the house. He's like, this is wonderful. This is wonderful. He goes, I think, how would you feel about coming to New York with me? She's like, really? He's like, yes, I think my mother would approve. I don't really need her approval. She's like, yes. He goes, well, we haven't even talked money yet. It's like, you can have all my money. He goes, no, I mean, for you, because I'd pay you as a housekeeper. She's like, a housekeeper? And then she packs up all the food, takes the curtains, and leaves because she's angry. Meanwhile, Mr. Drysdale then calls this guy. I guess they all work together. I don't know how it works. Mr. Drysdale calls this guy and says, you can't let Pearl leave because Jethro's on his way there. I guess they must kowtow to them so much because they're afraid that they'll take the money or disappoint them, even though these people seem like the sweetest, dumbest people, and they're not going to do anything like that. So he's like, you need to make sure she doesn't leave. So he goes back to her house and apologizes, and spends time with her for hours and hours. Then he gets on one knee, and she's like, yes. He goes, please don't go. She's like, you son of a gun. Come on, Jethreen, let's go. Jethro has a twin sister named Jethreen, played by the same dude in drag, even though they have a voiceover that's done by a woman. And so they're about to leave, and then, boom, they open the door, and there's Jed and Granny and Ellie Mae and Jethro. They're like, you're here, yay, great. They're wonderful. They're all happy. Even the old man shows up, and he's like, come on, Granny, you want to go for a sleigh ride? And she's like, well, you're not going to try anything, are you? He goes, no, I promise I won't. Then she goes, well, then why should I bother? It's like, I think Granny wanted to get it on with this dude. Very funny. Like, I chuckled and smiled multiple times. None of it felt like corny. Because it was just so innocent and so old. It was still, sitcoms and comedies like this were still new to the world. You know what I mean? Like, within the last decade or so, they must have popped up like crazy. Like, I think of shows in the 50s, and this is already the 60s, but it's still, an early time for the medium. So they did all kinds of high concept. I mean, this is as high concept at the time that it wasn't science fiction as you could think of. Take these hillbillies and stick them as fish out of water. I mean, that is a great idea. And so much so that's why the show ran forever. That's why you can probably hear my knees cracking. Ready? I'll try to make my knee crackle. Let me put the recorder. Of course now they don't do anything. So anyway, yeah, that's why it lasted a million years. That's why it had a movie, in the 90s. Jim Varney played Jed Clampett. I never saw that movie. I don't think it was supposed to be very good. But what's funny is Buddy Ebsen shows back up in that movie, but he's playing the character Barnaby Jones, which is a character that he was in another TV show. All in all, I liked their naivete. I liked the way they just were cracking, cracking jokes. Granny was, like a curmudgeon, but she wasn't. She was like a harmless curmudgeon, and I just liked the entire thing. Seeing Jethreen was a little weird, and then they all go in at the end and they sing around the piano as Jethreen is playing the piano, and that's it. The episode pretty simple, but just a lot of fun, and I get why people loved the show because it's harmless, funny, just silliness that with some just great, iconic, memorable characters that live on 61 years later. I mean, it's crazy. This was the first season. It's 61 years ago. Yowza! And there was another episode I almost watched, but it was like a crossover with Petticoat Junction. I'm like, there's going to be a lot of people here I don't even know. Let me keep it simple with just pretty much the cast that we know. That for the most part they were just in the airplane, which was pretty funny. That was like their whole thing, dealing with the bus. They called it the bus. But that future episode that I watched was aired on Christmas Day. I feel like you'd never see a new show for a sitcom aired on Christmas Day, unless, of course, it was a very special episode. Like tonight we're premiering. Like sometimes when they do big special episodes after the Super Bowl. Well, actually, they always do something like that after the Super Bowl. I'm assuming the Super Bowl wasn't on Christmas Day, and was it 1968 or whatever this was? But yeah, I think I'm done. I think I've covered everything I want to cover. So happy Wednesday, everybody. Even though technically it's Tuesday night when I'm recording this. It's the power of editing and the internet that I could have done this months ago. In fact, I always say I should do this, during the summer, in the fall, so that when Christmas time comes, I have all these episodes ready to go. But it never works out that way. And in a way, I kind of like that, because even though this isn't where I have to watch, the part of the fun is every single day watching an episode. It still kind of turns into that, and it gets me in the Christmas mood because I'm watching so much Christmas television, more than I ever would have. Otherwise, I'll watch a Christmas special here or there, Christmas movie here or there, but watching 25 Christmas episodes, and so far trying to do my best to keep the repeats to the bare minimum. Day 25, as long as it can be, it will always be the same. And of course, Christopher Morris, when he joins the show, he'll always be talking about a specific episode and more. But at least he'll be talking about a specific television show, not episode, but television show. But that, dear listeners, is still many days away. We still have 19 days to fill with sitcoms and laughter and Christmas and Santa and many special guests. So I hope you guys stick around. I hope you keep coming back every single day. And even if you can't listen every day, save up a few days. Go for a nice walk out in the woods in nature. Maybe there'll be snowing and you can just hit play and enjoy nature. Walk around in the snow and be like, oh my God, he's talking about Ellie Mae Clampett, or he's talking about what was yesterday? Mama, or I don't know, Frasier, all kinds of stuff. News radio. He's hitting sitcoms that I forgot even existed. And of course, he tries to hit as many classics as he can. And I'm talking in the third person or first person. I don't know what I'm doing right now, but I'm leaving you because I've got to the point where I'm rambling too much, and there's only so much pacing you can do in a bathroom. Actually, through power editing, I went outside the bathroom for a second. My dog settled. She's chilled. She's lying down. She's relaxing. But I wanted to come back here and finish this off. And maybe I should use the bathroom too. Not while I'm recording. That would that would warrant the explicit tag, and that's not what we're about here at Geek Mentality. So, my friends, thank you so much for listening. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram, Threads, and Mastodon.social at Geek Mentality. Facebook is Fans.Experts. That's because the website is fans.experts.com. And over on Blue Sky, you can find me at Mikey-C. And that's it. We've done 6 of these now, and I'll be back again tomorrow. But until then, my friends, thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. And here is my theme song. This is my podcast, I made it. Geek Mentality's what I named it. And I think you should listen and subscribe, 'cause I'm kinda funny and awesome. I think that I'm worth your time, and I'm kinda handsome. My mom says, please listen and please subscribe. At least listen to this episode.
Fans Not Experts.
Got a little tickle in my throat there.
Y'all come back now. Here